Welcome to the Love Reading Lit Fest. I am here today to talk to Jasbinder Bilan, the author of this absolutely beautiful, beautiful new non-fiction title, India, Incredible India, which is out now and it's published by Walker Books. Before I introduce you to Jasbinder, I'm going to just tell you a little bit more about her. Now, according to family stories, Jasbinder was born in a stable close to the foothills of the Himalaya. Until she was a year and a half, she lived on a farm inhabited by a grumpy camel and a monkey called Omar. How fabulous does that sound? She then moved to the UK and grew up in Nottingham and adored having adventures with her siblings and her German Shepherd dog Sabre, who I hear is a little bit naughty. In her writing, she loves creating magical worlds inspired by her love of nature and wild places. Jasbinder now has an MA in creative writing for young people from Bath Spa University, and she lives in a wooded valley close to Bath with her husband, 2 teenage sons, and dog Enzo, and splits her time between teaching and writing. India, Incredible India, published by Walker, is Jasbinder's first non-fiction book, and it is a love song to the country of her birth and was inspired by her father's dream to travel around India in a jeep. Jasbinder, welcome to the Love Reading Lit Fest.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure and an honour.
It's gorgeous to have you here. Really, really excited to have you here today. And there's been a lot of buzz about this beautiful, beautiful book in the Love Reading for Kids team. So I'm really, really excited to talk to you today. So this is your first non-fiction outing. And we just heard that you're 1.5 when you moved from India to the UK. And that must have been huge for you and your family. And I can't imagine how that must have been, and I don't imagine you can maybe remember much of your life there, but I know from reading this book how you and your family must have kept your love of India alive. So I'd love to hear about why you've created this book and what it means to you.
Yeah, so as you say, I was really tiny when my family moved from the farm in close to the foothills of the Himalaya, and I don't really have my own memories of that time, but I like to think that I have kind of like muscle memories. So I imagine myself crawling around the farmyard, finding things, probably like worms to eat and things like that. So I think that was quite strong in me. And then my grandmother, my Margie, was a really amazing storyteller. And my mum would cook big dinners and the whole extended family would descend. And so we would eat and we would talk about India and all the funny things that used to happen. And so I think it was really through these stories that the magic and the memories of India came alive. And I always remember those times as really, really happy times. And there were particular stories that were told over and over again at the dinner table. And just like it is when you're little, you know, you absolutely love those stories about yourself that you don't remember, but that you want to hear every time everybody's together. So there were stories about making popcorn after the hard day's work in the farmyard, stories about how our monkey Omar, she had sort of adopted our family. And one of the stories that my grandma used to tell was how she used to take my brother when he was a baby, would kind of take him off into the neem tree, and she would climb up to the top and she would sit there with him. And so, you know, I think that all these stories were creating this very, very vivid place that, although I didn't remember, I felt that because of all of these stories, I just kind of knew it so well, you know, and they were such visceral memories.
Yeah. And you feel that, honestly. When we reviewed this book for Love Reading for Kids, we called it a beautiful, detailed, heartfelt, and personal celebration of India. And actually, I think it's important to say as well, whether it's a country new to you or it's a welcome back and a reminder of all of its treasures. Did that resonate with you? Do you think that captures it?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a book that is for everybody. You know, it's kind of a sort of armchair travel book or a bed travel book. So you know, if anybody's ever wanted to go to India or they're just intrigued, it's like a real window into this fabulous new world. And then, as you said, there might be people that have connections with India as well. So it will have that extra resonance for those readers, but it really, really is for anybody and everybody.
It is, and it's such a special book. I'm just going to show our audience just some of these. It's the way it's presented is just so beautiful. It's, as you can see, it's a really large format picture book. And although on the Love Reading for Kids site, we've put it from 5+ to 11+, it's for everyone. And the whole premise is we've got Tara. Is it Tara? Is that how you pronounce her name?
Yes.
And Tara's Nanaji has collected all of these special objects from around India, and she keeps them in this absolutely gorgeous, beautiful carved wooden trunk. And you really journey with her across all of India's states and enjoy all that India has to offer. And I just think it's absolutely stunning. Have you got a favourite part of the book, Jasbinder? Is the one where you just come to it again and again?
Well, there are so many. When I was researching the book, I discovered so many things. So there really, really are lots of favourites. It's kind of quite hard to pick one. You know, like I think I just noticed there you had I think the Himalayan Queen, and I would love to take that journey because it's really kind of, it's called it sort of is a really bendy railway track. And it goes up into the eastern Himalaya. So the eastern Himalaya is where there are the cloud forests, and that's where the golden monkeys live sort of on the border between China and India. So I think it's in Darjeeling. Yes, I absolutely love that one. And one of and I wanted to put some like really fun facts in there, things that surprised me as well and sort of really made me smile, which was the train at one point, it goes through a town, it goes through the market. So you can kind of like be there and do shopping, pick some things out, you know, because it sort of goes right through the market, which I was just absolutely amazed by. I think probably, you know, a couple of my favorite things, obviously, this book, as you said, is something that's really special to me, you know, close to my heart, because it is a personal book because of the story that my dad used to tell, but then also because of the story that is threaded through. The book ends with a visit to my mum's village, which is the Morawali, which is the village of the peacocks. And so my goodness, I love that. It has to be my favorite page because it's fantastic to go somewhere and to travel, but it's always absolutely wonderful to come home, isn't it? It
really is. It really
so that was like a little gift for my mom. And then I think the other spreads that I really, really like are the ones that are celebrating different people. So one of my favorite ones is in the state of Assam, and it's a little story about a man called Jadhav Payeng. And I was just really...
Oh, yeah, Jadhav, here he is.
Yeah, I was so there he is. And I think it's really sweet the way Nina Chakrabarti, who's the illustrator, she's put a little bamboo frame around him. And the reason why that's very relevant is that Jadhav Payeng, when he was 16, so he was still a boy, he decided that he was going to do something about the fact that Majuli Island, which is the biggest river island in the world, every time there was monsoon rain, it would a little bit more of it would disappear into the river. So he decided, as a young man, or kind of older boy at 16, that he was going to start to plant trees. And he began to plant bamboo trees, because bamboo is able to grow in sand really well. So he began with bamboo trees, and then he went on to planting silk trees. And silk trees are absolutely beautiful. If anybody wants to go and kind of have a little Google of them, very, very pretty. And so now he's managed to plant a whole forest and has managed to save his island. And what I love about his story is that it was a big problem, but he tackled it one small step at a time. So he planted one tree, then he planted another tree, and there's a really sort of like lovely cute alert on that spread, because so the forest that he planted is now called the Molai Forest. And in 2012, I think, they had their very first tiger cubs that were born. And so Nina's got this very, very cute little tiger cub, which I do absolutely love.
Forest babies.
Yes, forest baby, yes.
It's lovely. It's just, I thought it was so gorgeous. It's the first time we read it, and I'll talk to you about who I read it with in a minute, but the first time we read it all together. But I love the fact that you can dip in and deep out, and it really, that journey is just gorgeous. You can grab your spiced milky chai sprinkled with cinnamon, and then you can go and learn about the modern, and the modern skylines of New Delhi and the sort of the vibrant cities, but then also think about the more traditional sides of India and the Himalaya. And I just think it's so, I learned so much from this book. The strong faiths and the beliefs and how to say hello in a few languages. But, it didn't feel like a sort of traditional non-fiction book, because that story threads through. It was so much more. It was just fantastic. Was that your intention?
Yeah, so when Walker approached me to write a book about India, I was really, really excited, but also a little bit overawed, because there's so
Where do you begin?
Where do you begin? So I was really kind of looking for a sort of like a way in that would be quite open and quite welcoming to the reader. And so I sort of played around with a few different ideas, and then I came upon this idea of a story within it, and the relationship between Tara and her Naniji. And then I was chatting with my husband, and he said, well, why don't you have a trunk? So it was actually my husband's idea. Yeah.
Well done, hubby.
Well, it's quite nice that he's quite good at bouncing ideas off. And so that's where the idea of the carved wooden trunk was born. And so I thought, this is so lovely, because it's almost as if, all the objects are inside this trunk, so you don't know what else might be in there. And as you said earlier, you can just open the page at whichever one you want, and that you're going to find something really special and really unusual in the trunk, because there are all sorts of things, from maybe a seed pod, something that you can just pick up. Because I think when we go traveling, you've got your eyes open, your ears open, everything's kind of open, and you're really kind of looking out for unusual, special things. And these things might be just something really, really sort of eye-catching that you find on the floor, for example. And if you kind of shake the pod, it's going to make a sound. And maybe it's almost like a musical instrument, and as I say that, and then some of the things are things that Naniji's bought, and then other things are I really like the fact that she has a stamp as well from Chandigarh for the rock garden. So I sort of, I wanted to put in lots and lots of eye-catching, unusual things. And I always think about myself when I write when I was writing this book, and also when I write my storybooks. And I really wanted to capture the imagination of a young reader. And so it was interesting you said it's not like traditional fact books, because I think sometimes they can be really daunting and they can be too full of words. So I do think that that Walker have done such a fantastic job with this, laying it all out, and then Nina's beautiful illustrations, and the way the words are sort of woven into the illustrations works really nicely for it not to be intimidating. It's like really enticing.
It's so exciting. It's so colourful, and let's talk about the artwork by Nina, because it is stunning, and I'd love to know how that worked, because it just feels like such a beautiful collaboration, so natural as you read it. How was it to work together? Because this will be close to her heart too.
Yes,
right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think under normal circumstances, we probably would have worked together, but we weren't able to because of lockdown. So Walker asked me to start working on this in 2019 when my debut, Asher and the Spirit Bird, was published. And so, as you know, then that just that next year, lockdown. And so, we would have got together, but we couldn't. So we did have a Zoom call, and we had a little chit chat. But it was mostly done separately. I did my text first, and then she had the text, and then she did her sort of interpretation of it. And then there was a little bit of toing and froing. Once she'd finished the whole text, we kind of talked a little bit about it and did a bit of tweaking, but it was we've done a few festivals together in September and October, just sort of gone, and that was lovely. And it was I just found it really fascinating and interesting to hear Nina's story.
There she is. There you are.
Yeah, there we are, both of us. And so Nina was actually born in Calcutta.
I saw,
Yes, and she lived there until she was 12. So she, in contrast to me, she has real memories of living there. Quite formative time.
Absolutely.
So that was really, really interesting to hear her side of the story as well.
Well, I've got something, we haven't talked about this, but I was particularly pleased to be able to talk to you today, as this book has special meaning to me and my family. Now, my husband is Indian.
Oh,
but he was adopted at 3 months old, and he was brought up by white parents and knows nothing to this day, even about India, really, Indian culture. To the extent, actually, where he was frog marched to eat his first Indian food when he went to university by his friends. So we've got 2 children, and they are obviously really curious about their heritage. They're biracial. They've got this beautiful colour that everyone's incredibly jealous of and curious about. And International Day a couple of years ago, I remember my daughter requesting to go in a sari and my son want to wear an Indian flag in his T-shirt. But we still don't know much about India. And they have always said, I want to know more. So it was amazing to read this together and learn so much. And honestly, on the back of it, it really has become firmly one of the places they're desperate to visit and find out more. But I think whether you've got that history or not, it just shows that the diversity, the culture, the history that India has to offer. So I just had to share that with you because it was just lovely.
Well, that's lovely. Yeah. Well, maybe you go on a trip.
Well, this is it. That's on the list. And one of the things we loved were real foodies. Now the food section. I want to visit the spice market.
Yes.
I could almost taste the delicacies as we were reading it. It was just lovely.
Yes.
Really
And
lovely.
also, the food is so varied depending on where you are. So food in Kashmir is really, the delicacies there are quite based around cheese and things like that. Or if you're in the eastern side of the country, it's more kind of noodles and, more kind of influenced by Chinese cuisine.
Yeah,
So,
I saw that, more oriental. Yeah.
yes. It's really amazing, fascinating. So
No,
I
it's
think it's the
honestly.
sort of book that, if you think you know India, think again.
Absolutely. And I think that, I think that is so tough to do, to make it feel accessible to anyone and everyone. But also, I can imagine, as I said earlier, that sort of, even if you know lots about India, it really is a celebration and a reminder of all the treasures. It's fabulous, honestly. Well done. We love it. Love it. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jasbinder, would you mind doing a little reading for us from the book?
Of course, it would be a pleasure. And I'm going to read the very final page. So just relax and enjoy. As Naniji tucks the blanket under my chin, my mind is whirling with all the stories she's told me about growing up in India. When my eyelids begin to droop, I feel the magic taking me there. The wind blows softly, and I smell the sweet wheat fields on the breeze. I hear the low mooing of the cows and the voices of children playing. I join in their game of chase, and we run under the shady shisham tree, throwing ourselves down onto the brightly coloured durry, where my Naniji is waiting with a cool glass of yogurt lassi. I sip it slowly, watching the stars as they light up the night sky. I'm so relaxed, so happy here, that I can feel myself starting to drift off to sleep. I hear Naniji humming a lullaby and the soft click of my bedroom door. I pull the blankets tighter as her footsteps tap down the stairs. Tonight, I'll be in the village of the peacocks. Tomorrow night, who knows where Naniji's stories will take me? In India, incredible India.
That's gorgeous. Thank you so much. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job today if I didn't take this opportunity to chat to you about your fiction work too. You mentioned before Asha and the Spirit Bird, which was your debut. And what a debut it was. Oh my lordy. It was nominated for the Carnegie in 2020. It was long listed for the Jalak Prize that year, shortlisted for the Waterstones Book Prize, and it won the Costa Children's Book Award in 2019. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. If anyone who's watching hasn't read it, please do. When Joanne Owen for Love Reading for Kids read it, she reviewed it and said it was an enchanting Indian adventure that sings with magic, mysticism, and a whole lot of heart. So what did it mean to have your first book so well received? Must have meant the world, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because as people out there who are interested in writing stories will know, it's really hard work. When you have your first book that you're hoping will be published, you don't know. So when I wrote this, I wrote it on the MA Creative Writing, and I knew straight away the book that I wanted to write. I had very, very close relationship with my Margie, and I wanted to bring lots of my family roots into this book. So there are a few things that I knew about it, like I knew I wanted to set it in India. I knew I wanted my main character, Asha, to have a strong bond with her grandmother. And I also wanted to bring this idea of reincarnation in, because my used to talk to me a lot about that and tell me that I should never worry because, when she died, she would always be around. And I just think that's such a confidence boosting idea, to think that, people that have passed away, they stay with you and they help you through the tough things that can happen in everyday life. So when I wrote this story on my MA, I put all my heart into it, and I actually put all of my blood and sweat into it too, because it was really kind of tough going, and I didn't get an agent straight away, and I didn't get a publishing deal straight away. And I spent a whole year. It was written in the past tense, and I changed it all into the present tense. And then I entered it for the Times Chicken House Prize. And I just, I had absolutely no hope. There were about 1,000 people that entered. So, I really did not think that this was going to happen. And so, as you say, the sort of it won that competition, and then it went on to win the Costa, and then it was shortlisted for all these other prizes. And it was kind of like I was like in a big whirlwind, because I was so proud to have this story published. It was kind of like, oh, I've absolutely kind of achieved my dreams, because when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to have that thrill of being able to go into a bookshop or into the library and borrow a book that I'd written. And so it meant such a lot. It meant a huge, huge deal. So it was so unexpected. But just such a huge honour to be able to bring a story that meant so much to me to such a wide readership, because that's what happens when you win a prize. So it was beyond my dreams, because there were moments on the writing journey where I really thought that it wasn't going to happen for me, that other people were going to get their books published, but it wasn't going to happen for me. And I did have this sense, that when I was feeling like that, it was as if my Margie was with me, and she was telling me that I shouldn't give up, that I should keep going. And I do say to children, they have to remember what their dreams are, and they also have to remember that they need to work out what to do, what are the small steps that they need to do in order to achieve their dream. Because before I did the MA, I really wanted to be a writer, and I wrote, but I didn't really look at it to see what are the small steps that I need to do to make this dream happen. So, and also, it doesn't happen straight away. You have setbacks, but you have to keep going forward. You have to pick yourself up and kind of, write some more, make it better.
That's just such a brilliant story and such lovely advice as well. It's just such a beautiful book, and your Nanaji is the golden thread that goes through a lot of your work. She must be very proud.
Yes, well, I hope so.
It's really lovely. And then you've since followed it up with more gorgeous books. You had Tamarind and the Star of Ishtar, which was longlisted for the Blue Peter Award, and Artie and the Blue Gods. We've loved all of your books at Love Reading for Kids. Now, I also noticed today, as I was prepping for our chat, that there's another book coming soon.
There is.
Tell us more.
Yeah, it's called Xanthi and the Ruby Crown. And this story is very special to me as well, because it's set in Nottingham, where I grew up. And so it's a story that has a sort of a magical ghost cat called Leo, and the action takes place in a tower block, which is quite unusual. And I really wanted to bring magic into the urban setting, bring magic into an ordinary setting. So at the top of the tower block, there is this incredible roof garden that belongs to Xanthi's nanny, and they go and they're staying with her, and there's lots of kind of buried treasure. So I won't give too much away, but there's kind of magic, and there's buried treasure, and there's a ruby crown. So it's Xanthi and the Ruby Crown.
And is that a similar age range for 9+ readers like your other fiction?
Yes. Exactly. And there's a really lovely friendship group as well. So they're in year 6 and they're going on to big schools. So any sort of primary school year 6 children will probably really enjoy that over the summer, thinking about going to big school.
Oh, that's lovely. And that's out in February, am I right?
It's out in February, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we look forward to that. Honestly, it's just so lovely to speak to you. We love all you do. We can't wait to see what you do next. Jasbinder, thank you so much for joining us today at the Love Reading Lit Fest to talk about India, Incredible India, out now and published by Walker.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.